The man has been missing, like MIA completely for a month. And it wasn't until the entire internet started making noise that the 8-paragraph statement and this picture materialized. I'm gonna need a video.
So this is rather bizarre, but I suppose it makes sense that following the unexpected death of Lindsey Graham last night, we now have Turtleneck himself, Senator Mitch McConnell, desperately trying to provide proof of life to the American people. After being hospitalized for the past 2 weeks and nobody knows what's going on, there were rumors that he was brain dead or something. He all of a sudden is now posting pictures saying he's completely fine. His injuries are not serious. It's not true that his Chinese wife fled to China. Hey, look, she's right here next to me. And the whole thing is pretty strange. And, you know, do we believe that? That's for you to decide. But what I will point out is that all of this is happening at the backdrop of what now is becoming a power struggle within Republican Senate leadership. And I think it will actually go down that the loss of Lindsey Graham was a major loss for MAGA. And I know what you're about to comment. You're going to say that was counterintuitive because Lindsey Graham is a neocon. Lindsey Graham's a RINO. That's true. But Lindsey Graham, it's also important to understand, is kind of our neocon, which is to say, with the loss of the real kind of Trump loyalist within the Republican establishment, within Republican leadership who have the ability to whip up the votes and get legislation done, you are left more empowered with people like Mitch McConnell, John Thune, and the others in the ranks who we know are far weaker of Trump allies than, say, someone like Lindsey Graham was. And so while absolutely there's a lot of ideological disagreements I think we all have with Graham, it's also important to respect the fact in some ways he sort of was that liaison, right, between the Republican establishment and Trump and the MAGA base. And you need someone like that to exist who can talk to both sides, who can get things done. We're talking here, by the way, about a major supporter, for example, of the Save America Act. Mitch McConnell is not. Lindsey Graham was, right? Of the big, beautiful bill. Let's not forget what he did for Kavanaugh and all of Trump's Supreme Court justices in the first term. Like, disagree all you want with certain stances he has on immigration or foreign policy. It's also hard to deny the guy 100% was a team player. And honestly, my big concern going forward is that while you may even get a new senator out of South Carolina who, let's say, is better on the issues, what's going on right now in the wake of his death within the Republican establishment, and suddenly Mitch McConnell is spawning up again. Hey, look, guys, I'm alive. I'm not going anywhere. The whole picture here is, I would be honest, a little bit concerning. Let's talk about that, though, starting off with what apparently is this Mitch McConnell proof of life situation. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. That is the best way to support our work, and it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And with that said, you may have seen this earlier, but Mitch just released this photo alongside his wife, basically saying, hey, look, guys, I'm not brain dead. I'm not comatose. You know, I'm alive, trying to shut down the rumors. Think what you will of that, but it reads on and on. And basically what he's now claiming is that all that happened was a fall. The fall led to his hospitalization. He's now in a rehab center. But the attending physician confirmed he sustained only minor injuries after a comprehensive evaluation was done, which you might think sort of contradicts the fact that he's been completely off the grid for 2 weeks now. Who knows, right? He is old, in total fairness, so even minor bruises or something, I guess, can be a lot more problematic at that age. We would speculate he's probably not telling the full truth here, but nonetheless, here is what he's now trying to do to basically shut down the rumors, because I think, again, after Lindsey Graham tragically passed, now a lot of people are probably looking to this guy and saying, all right, you know, there's even more scrutiny, because if Lindsey, who appeared to be in overall good health and we weren't expecting that, if that happened to him at the age of 71, should we be more concerned about Mitch McConnell, who's been off the grid for now 2 weeks? But here's kind of his attempt to shut that down.
Office of the attending physician that we learned, Senator McConnell has experienced several falls throughout the last year that have been attributed to his post-polio condition. He was admitted to the hospital 4 weeks ago after falling at home and sustaining minor injuries. A comprehensive evaluation by a team there determined that he had no fractures, cardiac abnormalities, stroke, tumor, or hemorrhages. Early in his hospitalization, he had developed pneumonia, which responded rapidly to antibiotic treatment. The remainder of his hospital stay focused on physical therapy and strategies to reduce his future falls. He has been medically cleared to continue fully participating in his intensive physical therapy program. That was the statement coming from the Office of the Attending Physician.
Yeah, well, whatever, if you say so, right? He's been in the hospital apparently 4 weeks now, but nothing's all that severe. He's just doing some physical therapy, which is why we haven't even been able to see a picture. Keep in mind, about a week ago, the whole rumor was that he was brain dead or something to that extent. Not sure, whatever. Now, in total fairness, maybe there is a reason to justify Mitch McConnell staying out till the end of his term, which is currently the plan, despite how ridiculous it is, because it is worth noting that the governor of Kentucky is, of course, Bashir, that Democrat who somehow manages to stay in office. And so likely if McConnell were to resign right now, he would appoint a Democrat senator, which would be obviously bad for the Senate majority. However, at the same time, given that that Democrat would only be there for a couple of months, and let's be honest, the Senate isn't passing anything anyway between now and the November election, and especially understanding that Mitch McConnell is more of a problem and a liability than an ally within Republican Senate leadership, that is a conversation that needs to be raised. Is what is the vacuum of Lindsey Graham now being left open going to do for the situation on, let's say, the Save America Act? And that's what President Trump, in remembering Lindsey Graham, pointed out, in among other things, but obviously in the interview this morning, pointing out here that Lindsey Graham's death is a big blow to the Save America Act because Graham not only strongly backed the bill in principle, he even backed ramming it through despite the filibuster, which is huge. And this is something that you look at and you have to say almost on a level, you might have not agreed with Lindsey Graham's political ideology, but maybe he was a little bit better than he often got credit for. Because keep in mind, it's easy for, let's say, and this is not an attack on Brandon Gill, we love Brandon Gill, but it's one thing for Congressman Brandon Gill to be saying this. It's another thing to be kind of like the top 3 to 4 people, maybe even arguably the number 2 most powerful person in Republican Senate leadership, and have this stance. John Thune is not on this side, right? Mitch McConnell, obviously, as you know, is not on this side. He wants to kill the Save America Act. And so what in reality we had here, again, was a guy in Graham who might have been a neocon. He may be remembered and eulogized in many ways as a neocon, but he was a neocon who ultimately had our back when it counted, and that's why this is going to be a tremendous loss, and that's why I'm actually rather concerned about the path that Republican leadership will go going forward. And that's something maybe certain people are not thinking about, right? It's easy to say, oh, well, we can get a 100% MAGA senator now. Sure, they're probably going to be a solid party line vote, but are they going to have the leverage within the committees, within Republican Senate leadership, because we know how this stuff works, right? To whip up the votes and get stuff done, get stuff rammed through. Obviously not, especially if they're a new senator. So what does that do now? That, of course, hands more power for the time being, especially on an issue like the Save America Act. Now, who has more power? Mitch McConnell. That's not a good thing, right? And even though he's on his way out, he'll be out of office by next year, I just cannot possibly imagine that Graham's replacements within GOP Senate leadership will actually be better than he was.
This is a big blow to the Save America Act, let me tell you. So what makes it even stranger is that I got a call last night, and he called and he said, we're all set for the Save America Act. He was pushing the Save America Act like crazy. He got back, said he just landed from Ukraine. I said, that's a long trip to make. He said, he sounded a little tired, but perfect. But he wanted to pass the Save America Act. And I said, well, we're going to get it done, Lindsey. We're going to get it done. I'll see you like soon. We thought maybe we might even meet today. And then that was it. And that was, very around the time. It couldn't have been much longer. It could have been his last call. I don't know exactly. But I got a message about 1 o'clock in the morning from one of the people at his office that he had passed away. I said, I just can't believe it. He was like a member of the family to me. It's very tough, actually. It's amazing.
Mr. President.
He was such an advocate. He had a unique ability. He was able to deal with Democrats and Republicans. If I had a problem, a real problem, I wouldn't often ask. But if I had a problem with a Democrat, he could work it out. He was a great politician, actually.
Wow. And you want to know something? This may piss off some of the hardliners, but that is honestly a detail that makes me view and remember Lindsey Graham in a very different light. Because here you have a guy most of us probably were not the biggest fans of politically. But to find out the last phone call he ever had with President Trump was about passing the Save America Act. And in contrast to, again, not the median Republican senator, you have to compare him to his colleagues, which is to say the Republican establishment leadership. He was our guy. As I said, he may have been a neocon, but he was our neocon. And the fact that was what he was dedicating his political work to. Like, I have to be honest, on a certain extent, especially when a guy passes away, it's almost as if certain things can be forgiven and overlooked, and really seeing the bigger picture here and realizing again how important he was to us. And I do believe that if my message doesn't maybe resonate right now, in the coming months, unfortunately, when you see the direction that the Republican Senate leadership takes without him, you see that, there's not even any more chance. There's no attempt by anyone else, obviously, to get the Save America Act passed. By the way, the fact that Trump doesn't really have a liaison to someone of the establishment Republican Senate leadership who's on his side and going to advocate for him, it's not even just about the Save America Act. Lindsey Graham chaired the Senate Budget Committee, which is to say if John Thune and Mitch McConnell get their replacement, then good luck getting anything positive out of the U.S. Senate anymore. Now, granted, one big, beautiful bill, we basically got the bulk of what we wanted to get done last year, which was good, which was very smart of Trump to do it that way. But looking ahead here, again, as counterintuitive as it might seem to some people, the direction of the Republican Party is now worse for MAGA that Lindsey Graham, the guy in the system, the guy of the system who had our back when you really think about it, right? And just listen to that last detail. He was the guy who was fighting for us within that leviathan of the political establishment and the political machine. It sucks. It really does. And if Trump, knowing the inner workings of DC, understands what a loss that is for the Save America Act and his agenda, then I think we can overlook whatever things we criticized him about when he was alive and maybe actually look at the record, right? At the end of the day, here was a guy who was 100% behind the big, beautiful bill. And you remember a lot of the Republican grandstanding. Remember what was going on there, right? You had all these narcissists who wanted to blow up the most important piece of legislation in any of Trump's administrations and arguably of all the 2020s for conservatives. And they just wanted to say, oh, because it's not perfect, because of this one line, I'm not going to vote for it. Who kind of whipped them in the shape? Especially was someone like Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham was a big supporter of that. Lindsey Graham helped us get through the very necessary ICE funding and our immigration agenda, tax cuts, so much more. Think about Brett Kavanaugh, by the way, back to 2018. Remember where Lindsey 2.0 started? See, this is the kind of stuff that makes you almost look back and say, was he really that bad? Actually, in some ways, he kind of ought to be remembered as someone who used the power that he had to, in the end, fight for us, right?
If you wanted an FBI investigation, you could have come to us. What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You've said that, not me. You've got nothing to apologize for. When you see Sotomayor and Kagan, tell them that Lindsey said hello. because I voted for them. I would never do to them what you've done to this guy. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. And if you really wanted to know the truth, you sure as hell wouldn't have done what you've done to this guy. Are you a gang rapist?
No.
I cannot imagine what you and your family have gone through. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it. I hope the American people can see through this sham, that you knew about it and you held it. You had no intention of protecting Dr. Ford. None. She's as much of a victim as you are. God, I hate to say it because these have been my friends. But let me tell you, when it comes to this, you're looking for a fair process. You came to the wrong town at the wrong time, my friend.
And it's funny because here's where maturity starts to set in, because I remember back in 2018, I was a lot younger, but I was first starting to follow and do stuff around politics, that this was kind of the most overrated moment ever, right? Remember that whole Lindsey 2.0? I remember thinking too at the time, I mean, yeah, it was cool. Yeah, he was speaking the truth. But why are we putting so much hype and praise behind this guy who's sort of like this still disloyal neocon and all of those things? And hey, plenty of other Republicans said that. What's the big deal? Here's what I didn't understand at the time, though, that I do now. Actually, this was a lot bigger than a cool internet moment. Lindsey Graham's the very reason why Kavanaugh got confirmed. See, realize that? Now, like, we think about this years later, what actually happened. It happened because of him. Because why? Again, this is important to understand. We're not just talking about any senator. We're talking about a high-ranking, respected member within Republican leadership who, in contrast to McConnell, John Cornyn, John Thune, people like this, at the end of the day, whenever we needed something, this establishment neocon, for whatever reason, right? He was like one of the good ones, had our back every single time. And when you kind of go through his legacy and start to realize that, again, maybe people won't realize it yet. I didn't even really think about this truthfully the moment that he passed away, but now that I've had some time to digest, I'm starting to realize, wait a minute, was Lindsey Graham actually like our guy? He was like our ambassador through the crooked Republican establishment. And in the end, like he literally had his hand here and he had our back, right? I don't know, just something to consider. Yesterday, we gave him a lot of praise for being a very good political navigator and kind of said going forward, right, that while you might not agree with Graham's ideology, there's a lot we can learn from the way he approached politics and basically how smart that was. And hey, if you want to be successful, if you ultimately want to replace the old school Republican establishment, it's important that we have to play smart as well. We have to understand that politics is a team sport. And then in the end, you kind of look back and realize, hey, the fact that he was a team player was so powerful and so important for us, because not only did he launch himself to such high rankings of the Republican establishment, and yes, in many ways was sort of buddy-buddy with these neocons, but because he was such a good political navigator, he got done the stuff that we wanted. And that's something to think about. I think actually J.D. Vance, who clearly two people who heavily disagreed on, let's say, foreign policy and immigration would be people like Lindsey Graham and J.D. Vance. But J.D. Vance's little written eulogy to him summarizes exactly what we're talking about. So, it goes on to basically talk about some of his personal experiences. But here's what I also find to be very telling. And again, maybe changes your perception of the way he will be remembered. Here's what Vance had to say. Lindsey had the best sense of humor in the Senate. He loved the game of politics. He was constantly asking which races were up and down and how he could help. Again, massive team player here, right? He was a guy we will remember, to quote Ketanji Brown Jackson, he understood the mission. But joking aside, that really is what he was. He was someone who understood the mission, right? As he liked to say, quote, I don't care if you're an isolationist or a religious fanatic. So long as you have an R next to your name, I want you to win. And if that's what Lindsey Graham said, then you know what? Again, that's our neocon. That's our patriot. Understood no matter what. Even if we're talking about like total isolationist versus total interventionist or something like that, at the end of the day, what did Lindsey Graham understand that was so important? The left is the enemy. The left is like the bad. Those are the bad guys we have to unite to defeat, no matter what, regardless of disagreements, which I have tried to preach, but clearly is something on the right wing, within the right wing discourse nowadays, that is rather controversial. Some people want to boycott Republicans. Some people want to unite even with leftists because they think that'll form the coalition against Israel or something. And Lindsey Graham, at the end of the day, you know what? I will remember this guy as someone who got it. He understood it. And that's not true of many different neocons, right? There are many neocons who throughout the years you may remember blew up the whole thing, became Democrats, jumped off the train, all of these things. Or you have people like Mitch McConnell who just kind of generally caused a bunch of problems rather than solutions for Trump. Yet that's what Lindsey said. I don't care. As long as you have an R next to your name, we need to unite and defeat the communists. Patriot, patriot. Actually, that's something that we all need to internalize, frankly, from Lindsey Graham. And Vance went to go on here. We certainly had our disagreements, but I couldn't help but like him. A one-of-our-kind figure in our politics. I'll be praying for him and his family. Yes, absolutely. And when you read something like that, you learn these details. Now, hopefully, do you understand, as it relates to Mitch McConnell, as it relates to the power struggle within GOP leadership, why this is a tremendous loss, and maybe in the end, maybe not right now, but later down the line, he will be remembered as a patriot who is kind of holding all of the glue together. It's very unfortunate, right? Within the past year, between a lot of the past couple years, frankly, we've lost a lot of important voices, a lot of unifiers, a lot of coalition figures in our movement. But maybe we don't immediately register Lindsey Graham to be one of them for obvious reasons. I think this is actually kind of a case that maybe it will go down that he was. So there you have that. And would obviously be nice if Republicans would honor his memory by passing the Save America Act that he was very passionate about. But you know how this stuff goes. So yeah, that'll definitely be something to watch. But anyways, there you have it, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Until next time, God bless and peace.